Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Game Break. I am Charles, coming to you today with another episode of World and Economica, Episode 2. Last time round, we made a decision. We are going to dive back into the world of investment banking because, why not? It really is our best bet for figuring out who we are and maybe gaining back a bit of ourselves that we've lost. Now, unfortunately, my copy of the game is kind of borked, so I'm gonna have to be a little creative to get back to where we were. I've had to just auto-scroll from the beginning all the way to where we were at the end of last episode and quick save. So let's dive back in from the quick save slot. Now, what is in the leather pouch? She's married? Huh. I'm always a bit tense about it. I'm pretty close to reaching my goal. Then I'll be able to leave here whenever I want. Then I think I can continue for about 5 more years. What? I was dumbfounded that Rena showed me her hand proudly. Her fingernails were round and childish without any coloring, and it didn't look like she was taking care of her hands. Focus less on the manicure and more on the sparkle sparkle on her ring finger. I think that's what she's trying to show you. But even still, the glimmering ring on her ring finger made Rena appear like a princess guarded by a knight able to overcome any obstacle. So you see, Haru. Yes? I straightened up my back without thinking. Everything I had assumed about Rena all this time was crushed embarrassingly. Don't worry. Go ahead and quit. This is the moon. It's the place where everyone chases their dreams. As I was a working scholarship student, Rena was my direct superior. When I began working, I was always dejected, wondering which of us was actually in charge, but at that moment, I saw the girl in front of me as my superior. Understood. Thank you very much. I bowed my head. Rena removed her ring, then laughed a little, lifting up her shoulders. Wait, so is she actually married or just engaged? Because, either way, it implies that there's someone else to keep an eye on her and help her out if she's struggling. And to, cheer her on and all the good things of marriage. But we just saw the wedding band, not the engagement ring. So presumably she's married. You'd think that would have come up in conversation at some point. Granted, not everyone's going to flaunt that by any means, but to keep it on that much of a down low, just what's going on in those offices that you would need to do that? That seems odd. See you tomorrow, then. When the workday was over, she left me with her usually cheerful farewell. Then she disappeared into the hustle and bustle of the lunar surface with steps that were light even to the moon's lower gravity. I never even thought that she had found a guy, let alone was engaged. I felt a tickle deep in my gut that made it feel like this face of mine could smile. This was probably happiness. Yay. So there were stories like this on the moon as well. Just that was enough to make me feel like I could go on. To believe there was such a story waiting for me when I was on the verge of changing jobs, it seemed too perfect and a bit scary. All the things Riza said were probably correct. I couldn't let this chance slip away. I believed that my chance was right here, right now. Dun dun dun. Watching Rena go off, I made my way down a different street from usual. Around Newton City, there was a tide-like ebb and flow of human traffic. In the morning, they head towards Newton City, and at night they scatter to the surrounding housing districts. I moved opposite of that flow, heading towards Newton City by train as I stared into the artificial sunset simulated by the lunar capital's dome. Long ago, I used to look out at Newton City every weekend in awe. The thought that I would succeed here, and in a few years strut down the streets. It was so nostalgic that I didn't even feel embarrassed about it. I had a feeling that I understood the reason Riza treated me like a kid and was so affectionate towards me. However, I hadn't stepped inside Newton City since then. You can see Newton City's skyscrapers if you were pretty much anywhere with a view, and that was more than enough. I had no intention of taking part in the battles being waged there, nor did I think I'd ever be involved again. It had been years since I'd gone to the central station, yet it hadn't changed at all since then. The shock is believed to have evolved as far as it ever will, having remained the same for tens of thousands of years, and the lunar surface may be the same. Yet I did feel it was showing its age a bit. I had a reason to come to this central station crowded with people. By going to the most famous meeting spot at the central station, the statue of E.J. Rochberg, the founder of our most prestigious bank, I was able to quickly pick out the person I was looking for. Hey, it's Chris.
Oh, Haru.
Guess I'm a little late.
No, I get lost really easily, so I thought I'd come a bit early.
Will you be alright leading me there?
I'll be fine, I think. Well, let's get going. It's a bit of a walk.
That intensity that Chris has shown me in the church was nowhere to be seen. She was her usual timid self as she started walking. Oh boy, I thought. I felt that I had no room to judge Riza for thinking Chris was even more adorable like this. Chris led the way, minding my pace, and we soon came up to Schrodinger Street. This wasn't just the greatest financial district on the lunar surface, but on Terra as well.
Hey, it's the kitty cat.
I stopped at the same old golden cat as nostalgic and sardonic memories filled my head. It felt like this cunning-eyed cat had lost weight compared to 4 years ago. People petting her might have worn her down. The lunar surface was experiencing unprecedented economic prosperity, and there was a boom in the stock market. Even people like Rena were buying stocks, so there must be quite a few who think they'll be graced by good fortune.
Isn't Annie so cute?
That's its name?
It would seem that the name is derived from money, so it seems fitting.
Then they should have named it Lucky or something.
That's a dog's name, though.
True. Oh, and there's the dad in the plow, going down the street as it snows. As we were having that conversation, people had been continually coming from near and far to pet the cat on its head. I walked along the lamp-lit Schrodinger Street at dusk with Chris as if we were taking a relaxing stroll. That's a really cool background. Sorry, I really like the curving little things. That's cool. This area, which was the eye of the storm, eclipsing the entirety of Terra in terms of greed, appeared quite normal as we walked through it. However, that may have been because this was usually the time people returned home. In front of us, a white-gloved limousine driver awaiting their employer in front of a luxurious-looking building. That's when I realized that this was a pretty commonplace sight in this area. This really was the place where money talked. I felt tense when I became aware of that, as if I had slipped on the stairs with my heart thumping hard. Question mark. I paused and started walking again after taking a few deep breaths. It's nothing. I'm fine. If this was 4 years ago, then I probably would have taken off running to hide the fact that my heart was racing. Following Chris's lead as we passed the busiest areas, the quality of the buildings dropped. There were no more lobbies in which you could see hanging glass panel chandeliers. Things started becoming more simplistic. If we kept going down this way for a few miles, we'd leave the boundaries of the Newton City area, and the housing quality would shoot back up, since then you'd have a nice view. Our destination was located in an area between there and the central station, which was like a little valley where the sun didn't reach. Speaking fondly, this place was bustling, with a hungry motivation about it. Speaking less fondly, it was a place where no one would have any hope of getting ahead.
It's the 22nd basement floor.
Passing through the automatic doors, we entered a dreary lobby. There were no decorations to speak of, and a long list of offices were on the side of the elevator. Newton City's ground level was over 300 feet above the surface. Anything below that is considered underground. The 22nd floor, where we were headed, was quite close to the surface, which means the rent was pretty up there. We entered an elevator bearing the logo of Emerald Industries, the moon's dominant construction company. From the panel sporting nearly 100 buttons, Chris automatically tapped the one for the 22nd floor, as if she already knew where it was. I ran that through my mind as the door slid shut with a whoosh. Whoosh. I'd heard that the size of buildings was restricted by the efficiency of the elevator. Having an inefficient elevator system, yet trying to make the building as tall as possible, wastes an immense amount of time when heading up or down it. So there's actually a specialist who assembles programs for how fast an elevator should go, how many should be on a floor, which should have express and which should stop at every floor. It turned out that the skyscrapers on the moon were so high because, thanks to the lower gravity, the elevators could move at quite high speeds. It seemed that Emerald Industries had a secret algorithm for that. That's pretty cool. However, elevators that are too fast have the problem of you floating upwards if you don't hold on to something when they slowed down. I sort of anticipated reaching zero gravity, but we ended up reaching the 22nd floor without anything happening. Looks ritzy enough. When the door opened, we arrived in a rather bland space. It seemed that any building constructed over 20 years ago resembled the ones in the outer district. A low ceiling, cream-colored walls, and beige doors. I don't know about you, but that actually looks decent to me. I'd have no problem walking around there. A crude, outdated vending machine hummed, and poorly built doors slammed in the distance. There were windows, but little light seeped in as most were blocked. There was also a guy who commented that it felt like an underground world since the building was surrounded by other buildings on all sides. It was true. When I tried to look past them, I couldn't make out anything outside. The only thing I could see was a guy in a dress shirt in the next building staring, death-like, into a display. The outer district would be better.
After you get used to it, the mood here is calming.
I couldn't say it was pitch black because they didn't pay their electricity bill, but quite a few lights were off, probably to conserve electricity. There was a floor map partway through, but I'd still probably get lost after a while. Chris must have been quite used to being here already, as there was no hesitation in her steps and soon stopped in front of one of the rooms. Schweizer Investing. Originally it was an investment bank, but there were lingering regrets for naming it as such. I'm going to presume that is our employer.
My, you're here early.
Oh, okay. That's a very feminine voice for a tall man in a top hat. We were about to knock on the door when a voice called out to us. Chris and I were startled and turned towards where it had come from. A bearded gentleman who looked like something pulled straight out of an early 20th century movie looked over at us.
Good evening, Mr. Legoff.
Good evening, Miss Chris. And then that would mean that this must be Mr. Yoshiharu Kawara. I may have been the king of emotionless expressions, but a poker face was something completely different. A poker face was a skill, weaving traces of false emotion into a blank expression in order to produce a greater effect. The gentleman lowered his eyelids as if evaluating goods, then raised his chin slightly. I'm Yoshiharu Kawara.
Greetings. However, introductions will be for later. Madame is waiting within.
Oh boy. Beyond the open door was a bland square room with 4 cheap-looking steel desks facing each other. Much like in Rise's old room, books were displayed in a glass cupboard. In one of the corners, there was a digital display. These displays were for automatically cycling through photographs or interior images one after another. Except it seemed that these weren't photos or images. They appeared to be some sort of newspaper articles, of all things. Tombstone advertisements? It was a type of cenotaph for investment banks when they issued securities. Was this to not forget the glorious days of yore, or, as the name Tombstone suggested, as a metaphorical gravestone? As I pondered on that, a knock echoed out from the far door within the room.
Madame, Miss Chris.
The elderly butler beckoned to the lady. I was now confident in my first assessment of Eleanor, that she really was a noble.
One moment, please.
Except what I heard from the other side of the door was not a noble and refined voice, but an irate one.
As you heard.
We nodded in response to Legoff, then waited.
Sorry to keep you. The phone conference went longer than expected.
Opening the door, Eleanor came out. I extended the best courtesy as I could while pondering the phrase phone conference. Good evening. When I said that, Eleanor's face suddenly lit up and she spoke as if without thinking.
Haru.
Eleanor uttered my name without any reservations before the elderly gentleman could properly introduce me. She then seemed to then realize how brazen what she said had been.
Is what I should call you, right?
She appeared slightly embarrassed as she inquired. Anything is fine. It was no longer as titillating as before when Riser could call me that. I was more interested in the room that Eleanor came out of than that. What I saw in that brief instant was a dimly lit space, with only the display for illumination. What that light had illuminated appeared to be a mountain of trash without anywhere to talk. But right after that moment, Eleanor gracefully shut the door.
I am quite pleased you came today.
I had no idea how serious she was, but Eleanor held her skirt daintily and with a bend of her knees curtsied. Isn't that adorable? She was probably quite serious, since the gentleman next to her had a straight posture and kept nothing but a serious expression.
Were you surprised by how small it is?
She gave a smile as she inquired, but it wasn't out of modesty, as she was in a position where she could easily write off 100,000 mule checks. Well, yeah.
Le Goff has implored for a more spacious room, but fixed expenditures must be reduced to their limits.
Ahem. The gentleman cleared his throat audibly in response to Eleanor's words.
Also, does it not feel as if we're starting from nothing?
Although I didn't respond with anything, it was evident that Eleanor was quite the lady, with a capital L.
I would like to say it's time for introductions once again, however, not all have arrived.
What? Okay.
My, is Marco not here yet?
Ever the gentleman, Le Goff took out his pocket watch, which was just impractical on the moon, as he said that. If he was wearing a monocle, he would totally pass for a character out of a movie.
Yet it does seem like he has arrived.
Right after Le Goff spoke, the sound of running footsteps could be heard from the other side of the door, which he opened just as it was being knocked on.
Good day.
6 p.m. on the dot, 5 minutes late.
No way.
Whether or not there was a penalty, this flat-cap-wearing young man dropped his hands to his knees out of an exhausted and dejected go-away pop-ups. He didn't have many years on him, maybe 12 or 13. As I looked down at him, this boy, probably called Marco, realized I was looking at him and looked up at me.
A guest. We were just about to introduce him.
When Eleanor responded to Marco, he straightened his posture, even more upright than Le Goff. Oh my, full cast now.
Thus, as everyone is present, I shall start with introductions.
Huh? This is it? When I spoke abruptly, Eleanor's smile became a laugh as she tilted her head slightly.
Does it surprise you?
A bit.
This is the entire group as of now.
I looked over at Eleanor, then Le Goff, then Marco, then Chris, and then back to Eleanor. I scratched my chin. This was the entire force Eleanor was leading. It was really a surprise to see someone who could toss around 100 grand checks assemble this feud. To put it bluntly, this was a group of amateurs.
We need only expand when necessary. And we will.
Oh. Eleanor chuckled at Marco's words. Le Goff wore an expression that said he might sigh at any moment, but stayed silent. Chris wore a buoyant smile that she didn't show off often when at the church. It was a devil-may-care kind of look. If Riza saw that, she'd probably make the sign of the cross.
Then let's go ahead with everyone's introductions. Firstly, I am Eleanor Schultz-Schweitzer, 29th head of the Schweizer family. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Harlan.
Nice to meet you. I exchanged a delicate handshake with Eleanor, then she looked over at Le Goff.
This is Jean Le Goff. He is the chief executive of Schweizer Investing's operational ethics and Chris's superior.
Operational ethics?
Maybe you'd understand if I said we are not to invest in dangerous weapons or tobacco.
Understood.
Jean Le Goff. I have been assigned directly from the 27th head to take full responsibility of Madame's investments.
Not sure what accent I'm gonna try for him. His dark brown eyes were like dull amber, with a peculiar intensity to them. When I shook his hand, I could see that age had seeped into it, but he still had a firm grip.
Le Goff has been entrusted with my family's finances since my grandfather's generation. He was once a private Swiss broker, and in regards to the Schweizer house's money, he knows even the amount of allowances I receive.
Indubitably. Tradition, etiquette, everything not present on the lunar surface was located in mountains of Europe. That was probably the reason why these two stood out so much.
And this is Marco Chanier.
Oh dear God. The boy, stiff from nervousness, stared straight up at the ceiling as if something was there. Eleanor appeared slightly startled, and Le Goff did not try to hide his frown at her introduction was interrupted. Eleanor just knelt down quietly, nudging Marco's head and spoke in almost a whisper.
Marco? Hat. Your hat. Huh? Oh, crap.
Eleanor smiled gleefully as Marco took off his flat cap in a fluster.
This would be Schweizer Investing's Executive Secretary, Marco Chanier. I'm Marco Chanier.
Executive Secretary was making quite a big deal out of it. He was basically a gopher. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
When I shook Marco's hand, I thought, oh? You're Lunarian.
Yes, that I am.
Marco appeared baffled, then looked over at Eleanor. Eleanor was slightly surprised as well.
How can you tell?
I just can. I let go of Marco's hand as I said that. Actually, there was a slight difference between Terrans and Lunarians. The sensation when you shook their hand felt somewhat precarious.
I heard you are Lunarian as well, Harlan.
That's right. I was born on the day my mom arrived on the moon as part of the first colony.
You're like a piece of living history on the lunar surface.
That's only if what's here is history. I looked over at Marco after saying that. He was giving a warm, full smile, even as he was wincing at my emotionless expression.
Marco was a messenger boy for my previous company. However, for this endeavor, he's volunteering. Yeah, I'm going to do my best.
Eleanor chuckled as Marco stood up as straight as possible as he said that. Le Goff wasn't laughing, but I knew the reason why. Marco was smitten with Eleanor. Oh boy.
Also, well, you already know Chris. This means I get to be Haru Sr.
I guess it would, though I'm not yet sure. I looked over at Eleanor, and she smiled with what seemed like unrivaled confidence. But, well, my regards.
I hope we can work together. Now I shall introduce you to everyone. This is Yoshiharu Kawara. 4 years ago, at the contest held at the Ratzinger Economics Research Center, he was the only investor who pressed hard against, of all people, Jeremy Botsman.
It was quite a flattering introduction, but there was one thing that caught my attention. Jeremy Botsman?
Goodness, did you not know?
About what?
I believe he was named Mr. Lozenges. Allegedly, he had caught a cold at that time. It was quite the tale.
Yeah. He left incredible results during the contest. If Barton's information is correct, he was a Terran super elite.
Even now, he is considered one of the gods of the stock market.
Excuse me. Oh yeah, Chris said something like that.
Are you familiar with a company named Avalon?
Nope. I had a feeling I'd heard about it before, but I wasn't too sure.
It's a conglomerate corporation, the largest electric utility proprietor on the lunar surface. Recently, it acquired various infrastructure-related subsidiaries. Down with Emerald Industries!
Oh, this is gonna be fun. When Marco said that, Legoff sighed as Eleanor smiled. Finally, I recalled it from my memories. Probably had slipped into my sight from either the TV or a newspaper. Emerald Industries, which had pretty much completely taken over the man-made lunar capital by force, was being challenged by this company in a David versus Goliath story. And we're going to have to see just how that story goes down next episode, because unfortunately we are out of time. But it looks like we hopefully have the full cast of players for this little investment firm. We shall see how things go from here next time. But until then, as always, go be creative. Go enjoy some stories that others have created. Go create stories of your own and share them with us all so we can all have some fun. And I'll see you all next time.